Welcome, everybody. This is your host, Sean, and this is Thoughts from the Inner Sanctum. Hope everybody's having a great Sunday evening. Sorry. Uh, don't really have a whole lot to talk about today, but I just thought we would chat for a little while. I'm trying my uh, recording, video recorder up there, so gonna see how that does. Uh, Hopefully it goes better than my last one because my last one, solo one kind of sucked. So anyway, let's see. Do we have anything that we want to talk about? Well, should I say, do I have anything that I want to talk about? Because there is no one else here. Um, Being a paranormal, supernatural show, we might get into a few spirits. Oh, see, famous spirits. I can't even spell. Uh, ooh, you know what's kind of cool, kind of interesting to me is Jack the Ripper. That's really an unsolved case that nobody really, well, everybody talks about. And nobody has the answers for. So, we are going to talk about Jackie Boy. Let's see, Jack. The Ripper. Ooh. So, I'm going to start off with some Wikipedia stuff. So, this is Jack the Ripper. His dates were, the killings were between 1888 and 1891. So this comes from the Wikipedia page because we all know we can trust everything that's on the internet. So, whatever. So, starting out, it talks about Jack the Ripper was an unidentified serial killer who was active in and around the impoverished Whitechapel district of London, England, in 1888 in both criminal case files and the contemporaneous journalistic accounts. The killer was also called the Whitechapel Murderer or the Leather Apron. Did not know that. That's quite interesting. Uh, anyway, Whitechapel. It was a pretty rough place in all accounts. Uh, let's see here. I'm gonna look up Whitechapel. Crap, I still can't spell. Dang it, I got out of it. London. 1888. Okay, yeah, there we go. In 1888, Whitechapel was a notoriously impoverished and crime ridden district in London's East End infamous for its high rates of poverty, prostitution, and the Whitechapel murders, later attributed to the unidentified serial killer Jack the Ripper. The area was characterized by overcrowded housing, particularly in common lodging houses, and large population of prostitutes, many of whom were driven into the trade by poverty. The district also saw frequent demonstrations and social unrest, adding to its reputation as a den of immorality. Uh, Whitechapel's endemic poverty led many women uh, to turn to prostitution to survive. In 1888, the Metropolitan Police estimated there were 1,200 prostitutes and 62 brothels in the area. Hang on, I'm going to do something real quick. Anyway, I had to do something real quick, sorry. Overcrowded housing. Common lodging houses offered rudimentary beds for a few pence, were a common sight, with an estimated 8,500 people sleeping in them each night. Crime and social unrest. My drink. Whitechapel was considered London's most notorious criminal rockery, with the highest rates of theft, violence, and alcohol dependency between 1886 and 1889. Demonstrations and clashes with the police were common. The 1888 to 91, the Whitechapel murders, the 1888 to 1891 Whitechapel murders, including the 5 murders attributed to Jack the Ripper, occurred in or near this district, further cementing its reputation for crime and violence. So it's a pretty rough place. So yeah, Jack the Ripper's kind of a wild guy. I don't know. We might have somebody else join in here in a minute. Uh, let's see here. Get back up here where I was at. The large number of attacks against women in East End during the time. I'm back to Wikipedia. Adds uncertainty to how many victims were murdered by the same person. 11 separate murders stretching from April 3rd, 1888 to February 13th, 1891 were included in the Metropolitan Police investigation and were known collectively in the police docket as Whitechapel murders. Oh, that's a lot of killings. One thing that I was told about the murders, or supposedly the suspects or whatever, people wondered why. Well, what was as brutal as they were, surely the person would be covered in blood. And from what I understand, there was a butcher shop close by, and with the lack of being 1880s. In the 1880s, hygiene wasn't as prominent. So, there was a butcher shop close by, so uh, seeing somebody walk down the street covered in blood was not an uncommon sight because of the closeness of how close the butcher shop was. I think it was a slaughterhouse, which I hate to say it, slaughterhouses can get fairly bloody. Uh, so anyway, uh, 13 murders between them time periods. 18, April 3rd, 1888 through February 13th, 1891. There was 13 murders. Not all of them were consistent with Jack the Ripper. Opinions vary as to whether these murders should be linked to the same culprit, but 5 of the 11 Whitechapel murders, known as the Canonical Five, and widely believed to be the work of the Ripper, most experts to point to deep slash wounds to the throat, followed by the extensive abdominal and genitalia area mutilations, the removal of internal organs, and progressive facial mutilations as distinctive features of the Ripper's modus operandi. I'm not sure what that is. It, modus operandi is an individual's habits of working, particularly in the context of business or criminal investigations, and also generally. It is Latin phrase approximately translated to mode or manner of operating. Okay, now we know something. So anyway, we'll get back to where we were. Where were we? Uh, ooh, sorry. Looked that up and I lost my place. Oh, I went way down here. The first 2 cases in the Whitechapel murders file, those of Emma Elizabeth Smith and Martha Tabram, are not included in the Canonical Five. Uh, I want to jump back up here. I will drop down to the murders, but I want to hop up here to the background. Uh, in the mid 19th century, England experienced an influx of In the 19th century, England experienced an influx of Irish immigrants who swelled the population of the major cities, including East End of London from 1882. Jewish refugees fleeing pogroms in the Russian Empire and other areas of Eastern Europe immigrated into the same area. The parish of Whitechapel in East End became increasingly overcrowded, and with the population increasing to approximately 80,000 inhabitants by the 1888. Work and housing conditions worsened, and significant economic underclass developed. 55% of children born in the East End died before they were 5 years old. Robbery, violence, and alcohol dependency were commonplace, and endemic poverty drove many women to prostitution or to survive on a daily basis. So, yeah, it was pretty rough back then. Pretty, uh, it was a pretty nasty place. You know, I guess the more common term nowadays would be it became a ghetto. So it was rough. In 1888, in October 1888, London's Metropolitan Police Service estimated that there were 62 brothels and 1,200 women working as prostitutes in Whitechapel, with approximately 8,500 people residing in 233 common lodging houses within Whitechapel every night, with nightly price of a coffin bed being fourpence equivalent to £2 in 2023. We're gonna look that up because I don't know how much a pound is. That is 2.62 in US dollars. So for those of us in the United States, that's $2.62 today. And let's see, 4 pence. I don't know how much a pence is. So we're looking that up. Uh, 4 pence refers to a former English silver dollar, was 4 pennies, also known as a groat. It's also used to describe the monetary amount of 4 pence. Today, 4 pence is mostly used in historical context or discussing the royal mondy, where newly struck 4 pence pieces are distributed. Anyway, so it's basically 4 cents in U.S. money at the time, or today would be $2, or basically $2.62 in U.S. dollars. So it's pretty crazy good stuff. They got bed pretty cheap, but it wasn't a good bed. And the cost of sleeping upon a lean-to or hangover rope stretched across a dormitory being 2 pence per person. So, we're gonna look up what a lean-to is. Lean-to. Oh, okay. It's a lean-to bed is basically a bed made of ropes stretched between like two boards or whatever. It's more of a bed shape than what the others were sleeping. The lean-to bed was more than the other beds they had because it was more of a bed than a basically a pile of straw in the corner. Uh, so, and from, let's see, if let's finish this up. The economic problems in Whitechapel were accompanied by a steady rise in social tensions between 1886 and 1889. Frequent demonstra- demonstrations led by police intervention and public unrest, such as Bloody Sunday in 1887, anti Semitism, crime of immorality, or crime, nativism, racism, social disturbances, and severe deprivation influenced public perceptions that Whitechapel was notorious den of morality. It's basic. Whitechapel was basically your more modern oh Sodom and Gomorrah, pretty much. It was a bad place. Uh, such precept, precept, perceptions, sorry, I can't read or talk, were strengthened in 1888 when the series of vicious and grotesque murders attributed to Jack the Ripper received unprecedented coverage in the media. So I'm going to get back to uh, the lodging for a minute. Basically, the lodging back then, at the time, it was like like I said, 4 pence all the way up to 2 pence for a bed, and you didn't necessarily keep that bed. Uh, you basically had to get back and pay for another bed every night. If you didn't, you basically lost your place to sleep, and you'd have to sleep in the streets or whatever. So they, there were so many people that were out of or didn't have a place to go, that a person who owned one of these boarding houses couldn't hold a bed for anybody. If you came in and paid for a bed, you got a bed. You might not have the same bed the next night. So it was pretty bad. Uh, so we kind of started in on some of the on the murders. Uh, let's see. We got into. We mentioned Emma Elizabeth Smith a little bit ago. So Smith was robbed and sexually assaulted in Osborne Street, Whitechapel, at approximately 1:30 a.m. on April 3rd, 1888. She had been bludgeoned but about the face and received a cut to her ear. A blunt object was also inserted into her vagina, uh, rupturing her per, per, peritoneum. So she developed peritonitis and died the following day at the London hospital. Smith stated that she had been attacked by 2 or 3 men, one of whom she described as a teenager. This attack was linked to the later murders by the press, but authorities attributed this murder to general East End gang violence, unrelated to the Ripper's case. So, some people, I guess, would claim that she was the first victim of Jack the Ripper, but the police don't connect connect her with the others. Uh, and we mentioned Martha Tabram a while ago. Uh, Tabram was murdered on a staircase landing in George Yard, Whitechapel, on August 7th, 1888. She had suffered 39 stab wounds to her throat, lungs, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and abdomen, with additional knife wounds inflicted to her breast and vagina. All but one of Tabram's wounds had been inflicted with a bladed instrument such as a penknife, and with one possible exception, all the wounds had been inflicted by the right-handed person. Tabram had not been raped. The savagery of the Tabram murder, the lack of an obvious motive, and closeness of the location and date of the later Conical Ripper murders led police to link this murder to those later committed by Jack the Ripper. However, this murder differs from the later Canokial murders because although Tabram had been repeatedly stabbed, she had not suffered any slash wounds to her throat or abdomen. Many experts do not connect Tabram's murder with the later murders because of this difference in the wound patterns. My, you know, to me that could be something that, being the first victim, they could have, or Jack the Ripper could have killed her, but then, escalated into what he did with the other 5 women. Well, it's one of them things I don't think we'll ever actually know the truth behind it. Who actually did it or why he done it. Well, we'll never know why he done it because he's dead and gone now. But it's one of them things that we'll never understand the reasoning for it. So I keep using the term Pinocchio 5, which is the 5 victims that were actually connected to Jack the Ripper. And I know if y'all are like me, you don't necessarily know, like, what. I didn't know what Pinocchio meant. Let's see here. Pinocchio, the adjective conical, conical. The adjective canonical is applied in many contexts to mean, according to the canon, the standard rule or primary source that is accepted by as authoritative for the body or knowledge or literature in that context. Uh, anyway, yeah. I'm kind of biding some time, hoping I get another on here to help me out a little bit, but we are what we are. Let's see here. Who were the 5 women that were connected to him? Mary Ann Nichols, Anne Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Edwards, and Mary Jane Kelly were the 5 women that were actually connected to Jack the Ripper. So those are the 5 that were actually connected to him. I heard a podcast once that went into kind of a detail about each woman, but I don't remember what podcast it was. And I don't remember. It's been a long time ago, so I don't remember a whole lot about them. So, let's see here. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly Nichols, born August 26th, 1845, and died August 31st, 1888, was the first victim of the unidentified serial killer known as Jack the Ripper, who is believed to have murdered and mutilated at least 5 women in the Whitechapel district. We already know that. See here. Cause of death. Syncope due to hemorrhage caused by severance of the carotid artery. I don't know. I think I hear my wife back there. Crystal, are you in here? Okay, maybe she's not. I don't know. Might have been the dog. She was married to William Nichols. She married in 1864, and they had 5 kids. I guess if you ain't got nothing else to do, you pop out kids. The 2 previous murders linked to Whitechapel murder are unlikely to have been committed by Jack the Ripper. When the murder of Mary Ann Nichols was initially linked to the series, increased both press and public interest in the criminal activity and the general living conditions of the inhabitants of the East End of London. Let's see. There's a lot about her background. I don't know that we really want to get into all that. On September 6th, 1880, the couple moved into their own home at 60 at 6D Block Peabody Building, Stanford Street, Blackfriars Road, paying a weekly rent of 5S 9D. I don't know what that is. Shortly thereafter, the couple separated, with William later relocating with 4 of his children to the address near Old Kent Road. Wow, he took all but one kid. That made that kid feel special, huh? Daddy took everybody but me. Nicholas's father accused William of leaving his daughter after he had conducted an affair with the nurse who had attended the birth of their final child, though William Nichols claimed to have proof that their marriage had continued for at least 3 years after the date of this alleged affair, claiming their marital troubles had been caused by his wife's heavy drinking and that he had embarked upon an affair only after Nichols had left him. He later maintained to authorities that his wife had deserted him and was practicing prostitution. Over the following years, Nichols amassed a lengthy police record, although all of her arrests were for minor offenses such as drunkenness, disorderly conduct, and prostitution. So, yeah, the husband might have been right that she was making a little side hustle there, and that she was drunk, because it sounded like she was a pretty heavy drinker. But 1881, she was known to have resided at the Lambeth workhouse, where she described herself as a chairwoman. She left this workhouse on May 31st. Her movements over much of the following year are unknown, although on April 24th, 1882, she again returned to Lambeth Workhouse. She is known to have lived with her father in Woolworth for several months in 1883 before leaving his residence following a quarrel. Sounds like she was kind of a rough lady. Legally required to support his estranged wife, William Nichols initially paid her a weekly allowance of 5 shillings until the spring of 1882, when he received word that she was working as a prostitute. Be like, ho, I ain't giving you no more money. Upon hearing this news, he ceased making these payments, causing Nichols to send summons via Lambeth Union requesting the continuance of this weekly allowance. When parish authorities attempted to collect the maintenance money, William explained his wife had deserted her family, leaving their children in his care, and was living with another man, earning money through prostitution, as he was not legally required to support his wife if she was earning money through illicit means. Nichols no longer received any maintenance payments from her husband. Nichols spent the majority of her remaining years in workhouses and boarding houses, charitable hand, living off charitable handouts and her meager earnings as a prostitute, although she frequently spent her earnings on alcohol. In 1887, she had formed a relationship with a widower and father of three named Thomas Stewart Drew, although the couple separated on October 24th. By December 1887, Nichols had begun sleeping rough in Trafalgar Square, although a clearance of the era on December 19th resulted in her returning to Lambeth Workhouse. On this occasion, she remained at the workhouse for less than 2 weeks. So she's kind of wild and out there. Let's see. Anne Chapman. Oh, Annie. Oh, Annie. What's your name? Oh, Wikipedia. Oh, so Anne Chapman, she was born September 25th, 1840, and died September 8th, 1888. She was 47. Cause of death, blood loss due to severance of the carotid vessels. Oh, see. Huh. She had any kids? Children. She had 3 kids. Census records from 1861 indicated all members of the Smith family, except Annie, had relocated to the parish of Clewer. Chapman is believed to have remained in London, possibly due to her employment commitments and domestic servant as a domestic servant. Her father, George Smith, also known as William Smith, was a valet to Captain Thomas Naylor Leland of the uh, Denbighshire Yeomanry Cavalry. On June 13th, 1863, Smith accompanied his employer to a horse racing event. He lodged with his employer that evening at the Elephant and Castle, Lexington. That night, George Smith committed suicide by cutting his throat. He said, "I'm out." So, anyway, yeah, these women, they were all basically prostitutes, and some were drunkards, and they lived a pretty rough life. Um, anyway, I think I'm going to stop this one for the moment because we're running on about 45 minutes, and I might come back here in a little bit and do some more or finish this up with another segment. And we might have a guest on the next segment. But I've got to cook something and eat something because I'm hungry. So, anyway, we'll see y'all here in a little while.